Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Heroes World Quarantine Podcast. I'm your host, Stu Pay, and I am here, of course, with the owners and proprietors of the Heroes World comic book store based in Markham, John and Andre. How are you two doing?
Pretty good,
What's
Stu.
up?
Thanks for having us.
Yep. Oh, having. Anyways. Yeah, it's your show. I'm just here. And of course, the resident prince of trickery, Rob Goodette. How are you doing, Rob?
Good, Stu. How are you?
You know, we've been talking a lot about the X-Files room behind me, and you've both made jokes about how I want to believe. So great. This is great.
Everything is fine.
Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Everything's awesome.
My next profile background is going to be the burning house with the dogs.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Going, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Thank you all for joining us on the podcast. Today we'll be catching up on a lot of topics about the MCU, the DCU, and I guess the Boys extended universe. So we'll be going through some topics, rapid fire, getting people's thoughts on the news. But again, if you have not listened to this podcast or watched it before on any of our channels, this is basically a casual conversation, and it's a podcast about comic books, geek culture, pop culture, all the fun things. We just basically, anything we talk about in the store, we are basically recording and sharing with the world. So thank you for joining us on the journey. As always, please feel free to comment with your thoughts on the topics today that we discussed. Share, like, follow, do all the things. We appreciate it. It helps us a lot to get the word out there, and your feedback is most welcome. So we'll take that as well. So thank you all for everything you're doing so far, and hopefully you're all being safe out there. So we're starting with the first topic: rumors of Sony properties, especially the Spider-Man universe, because they own a big chunk of that. For those of you who are not aware, Sony owns the rights for Spider-Man, the universe, and actually owns Spider-Man's rights flat out in a deal when Marvel was going bankrupt. So that's a thing. So whenever people are like, why can't they do this? It's like, well, Sony actually owns Spider-Man, not only in the movie form, but in the comic book form as well. So they own everything. Rumors are coming out that Olivia Wilde, who has actress, who is married to Jason Sudeikis, and has directed a movie, is in talks to direct the Spider-Woman movie. So Jessica Drew, thoughts, Andre, on this potential Spider-Woman movie that may or may not be connected to Venom and may or may not be connected to the MCU?
So this is actually pretty. I think it's a pretty substantial rumor. It's got a lot of legs, and
8 of them.
if you yes, 8 legs. If you followed the stuff in the past, like Sony's always talked about doing like these spin-off movies. Like there was talk of a Silver Sable movie, there was talk of a Black Cat movie, and stuff like that. I think this one might actually be more substantiated and might actually come out. And from our comic book background in our store, there was instantly a lot of fire on a couple of first appearances of comic book characters. A character called Silk, her first appearance book in Amazing
Can we talk
Spider.
about Jessica Drew? Why are you jumping all over the place with Silk?
Because I'm getting there, Stu. I'm getting there. There's rumors that this character Silk is going to be in there. So her first appearance shot up, as well as another character called Aranya. Her first appearance book shot up. Now these two books were like cover price books, and I think now they're both going for well over $100 just on the spec market, that these
Triple
characters
digits
are going to be in this movie. So yes, while it may be entitled Spider-Woman, there are definitely a lot of buzz and rumors talking about these other Spider female characters making appearances or cameos that could lead to spin-offs into other stuff. So
I think the Silk has a spin-off or potential TV series. There
yeah,
was a script.
Yeah,
there was talk of something going on already.
Yeah, so I think we got to wait and see, take the wait and see approach, because nothing really over the couple of years substantiated for Silver Sable or Black Cat. So it could be just. However, we are getting more Morbius. So that was one.
Wait. So again, why don't you tell us a little bit about Jessica Drew, because you weaved like Fast and Furious Dominic Toretto around my question.
Okay.
You did not answer any of my question whatsoever.
I thought you said, what do I feel about this movie coming? Okay, so
what do you feel about this potential movie about Jessica Drew? Because I mentioned her name. So I'm like, well, tell me about Jessica Drew.
He wants to know about
what
Jessica
can we
Drew.
expect? How is she Spider-Woman? These are questions that are relevant to it.
So see, now we got
And is
more
she the older sister of Nancy? This is I'm wondering.
100%, Rob.
Yes.
Thank you for
Okay.
backing me up. Thank you, Andre. Yes. I wanted to see how you can pivot this through to Silk, because now I'm really intrigued, because that had nothing to do with my question.
Right.
Please carry it to Andre.
Jessica Drew is a character in the comic books who's known as Spider-Woman, but she doesn't have the spider powers as per se a Peter Parker. She's not bitten by radioactive spider or anything. She's a very cool character because she has at times been on the other side. She was on, I think it was Hydra, and then she pivoted and became a good guy. She was a double agent. So very, very sordid past and connections to a lot of the spy-esque stuff. Later, she becomes a private detective using her powers. Her powers include like flight and some type of telekinesis or something like that. So she's not your strongest superhero, but definitely interesting. And again, she's got ties to, not that if this movie comes out with you, but Nick Fury, because via S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff, she was recruited to be, like I said, that double agent. So there's a lot of potential for good storytelling in this series, and make it, if they follow that point. And to segue into Silk, maybe she ends up, they use her genetic material to make a clone, because we've seen clones in the Spider-Verse, right? And that's how they get Silk. I don't know. I'm just spitballing because you wanted me to segue to Silk.
All right, there we go. Finally, stuck the landing. I was waiting for this Silk thing to work itself out. Although we've seen the story arc of Silk and how it matched up, and I believe she had the other spider that was retconned later that was also in Peter Parker's
by the same
thing.
spider as Peter Parker, yeah.
Yeah, same. Well,
even though that spider
another
got
spider
hit
like
died,
in that, but yeah.
okay.
But that character is Cindy Moon, and it is kind of a unique character because she is I think Korean, or she's Asian nonetheless. So and then there was an
American,
undeniable kind of attraction because of the way that I forget who wrote that story arc, but there was an undeniable attraction between her and Peter in terms of like how they connected, because there was an animal attraction, but that's a whole different thing. John, tell me your thoughts on this Spider-Woman movie, and do you know anything about Olivia Wilde and what she's directed in the past? Can you name one movie that she's directed?
I was gonna say, I haven't followed her directing work. I know she was 13 in House.
Yes.
She was in a Drake music video. She was in Your Guys' Jamtron and stuff like that, which I wasn't a huge fan of her portrayal in that movie. But she looked good. She had the wicked hair and stuff like that, but I wasn't a fan of her work in that movie. But that's besides the point. But I like the idea of like a female, like her becoming a director. That sounds cool. And as a female character, and Marvel's always pushed this character. Like Brian Michael Bendis, I think once stated that it was his favorite character, and they tried to do different kind of things with her, and that never quite took off. She's got a new series now, which is only on issue 5 or something like that. So I'm definitely interested, especially. I know we kind of some people bashed on the Transformers thing, but I did have a couple people come to me and say that their daughters really enjoyed it because there was now 3 or 4 new female characters that they were like, hey, how come all the Autobots or all the Transformers are all boys? It's like, oh, all of a sudden now they have like 3 female or whatever extra characters. So I think it hopefully will untap this new market for them. So I'm interested. But what has she directed? Do you guys know? Or
Booksmart.
Booksmart.
It was a very critically acclaimed movie. Did not make much money in the movie theater, but it's a coming of age story, comedy with a directorial debut starring 2 young females. I think it's Catherine Denver is one of the actresses, but
Caitlin Denver and Beanie Feldstein.
Okay, so now my next question would be: is it going to be a coming of age movie with
it will be
Spider-Woman, or is it going to be an established? Because usually we see Spider-Woman, we've never seen a young Spider-Woman growing up. She's typically being established.
I think, John, in terms of the book, the movie Booksmart, your daughters will end up watching it in 15 years, and then you'll be able to give us a report then. So let's put that on a cap. Reviews from John's daughters about the movie Booksmart. We'll put that in, and then 15 years from now, when they're ready to watch
Time capsule it.
We'll put that on hold for now. So.
Can I make a prediction that John's daughters will be like, okay, so Heroes World podcast number 8,402. John's daughters, what do you think of Booksmart? We got nothing.
No. They're going to be really good because they're going to watch their dad say, "We got nothing." They'll be like, we're not going to do that. We're gonna, John's going to tiger mom them to make sure that they're successful. Every year they're going to watch Booksmart till they're ready for their actual detailed report. Rob, what are your thoughts on Spider-Woman?
Listen, I think Olivia Wilde is a great pick as a director. Booksmart may not have made a lot of money in the theaters, but it wasn't widely released either. A lot of those indie art house movies generally aren't. They're not like the Fast and the Furious movies where they're a wide scale, 4,000 theaters.
So there's no car chases.
Yeah. Here's my concern though. As I feel that Sony is really milking the Spider-Man license. Obviously, we know that they have the co-production with Marvel for the actual Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. You've got Venom 2 coming out. Venom 1 was a box office success. You've got Mobius coming out, as Andre mentioned. And now you've got Spider-Woman. You know that Andre had mentioned Silk. This is the Amazon, that's TV series. Apparently going to do a whole, almost like the Netflix Marvel universe. They're looking to do a Sony Spider-Man universe. And I start to get a bit concerned as a fan about whether or not that dilutes the product. If you're only dipping into one well, how much relevancy will these movies have down the road? Will they, will people just get tired of it? Because you don't have lots of different pots in which to pull from, right? You don't have different characters that aren't tied to one singular individual, which is Spider-Man. So I get a little bit concerned about that. That being said, I have trust in Olivia Wilde. I think she'll do a great job, and I'm going to be spending my money. I'll go see this movie, but what's the longevity of these projects? I don't know.
I think in terms of a question that you asked off this podcast, and I'll address quickly here right now, is you mentioned, we have a lot of these Marvel MCU news, and I think you mentioned before, Rob, that are we going to get tired of all this stuff in general, all the MCU stuff? They're slowly trickling out information. And based on WandaVision, which had 52 million views in that short time frame, based on the fact that, although people on this podcast may not be a fan of all the MCU is now set up like football in America, where it doesn't matter, they're going to watch it, and it's primetime television or movies, and they've built a cult following of young people, of adults that are just going to watch it. They're not scary, they're not this, they're just basically like Fast and Furious movie, popcorn movies and popcorn TV shows, and that's it. You're just going to watch it over and over and continue. They make it general enough that a person could pick it up, but they leave enough Easter eggs so the nerds like me can be like, oh, look at that helmet they wore back in issue number 12. Like, this is the level of stuff they found that balance. And people say, oh, well, people get tired of football. Guess what? Football's on Monday, Thursday, Sunday. They talk about Saturday.
Stu, right, but then there's different teams. You have 16 different teams. You have different allegiances. What I'm saying is Sony.
No, but I'm talking about Marvel in general, because Sony
But that Sony universe is completely different. You have the one connection, which is Tom Holland. What I'm just saying is that there's only so many properties within that bowl, that Spider-Man bowl. And if you keep mining it, eventually, like everything that you mine, it will be nothing left.
Well, let me jump in there. So I think a couple points you made, like, of course they own the whole rights to the Spider-Verse, right? So of course they're going to want to keep mining it, as you say. And right now they've only scratched the surface with having Venom, Spider-Man, and Morbius, right?
Enter the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, but that's Spider-Man. I continue this, but so I think that the Spider-Man, shall we say, all the stuff that's encompassed in the Spider-Man universe, there's a lot of stuff that they could do. Obviously, you're right. If they end up having a Aunt May talk show, TV show, then that might be too much, right? You can't give every character their own
Disagree,
due. But
Andre. Like
The
that
Uncle
idea.
Ben show only lasts
I
one
like that
episode.
idea. You know, honestly, Marissa Tomei like talking to like superheroes on the side. Sign me up.
yeah,
If it's
like
Tomei,
so.
I'm in.
So I think there's stuff that they could do, but like obviously they own the rights. They need to make money off of it. And if you're Sony and you're looking at what Marvel's doing, and you're like, well, geez, if we make half the money they're making, you know, we're good. And Spider-Man does have, you know, like look, that was the first Spider-Man and Fantastic Four and X-Men were the three universes that they were able to sell. People didn't even want to buy Avengers, like nobody. So for Marvel to turn out what they did with Avengers characters, which were obviously third or fourth fiddle because they didn't even get sold, like nobody wanted them.
Mm-hmm.
That means that the IPs of Spider-Man, X-Men, and Fantastic Four, people thought they could obviously, you know, make other stuff and were more valuable. So now it's up to those, you know, Sony to be like, yeah, let's see where we can take Spider-Man and stuff like that. So again, I would prefer quality over quantity. Like I don't want to have a Silver Sable show, a Black Cat show, a Scorpion show, a Rhino show, all of these other things. But if you could end up telling a couple of really good tales, like what if they got really smart and there's been a couple comic book series where they were based on the Daily Bugle. And it was more like this, hey, let's have a show that follows the reporters that are reporting on these things. So it's not just a monster of the week or yeah, like, or the, you know, the Pulse comic book.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you could have just these little clips of, oh, Rhino broke into the bank and they're covering that story. And so all of a sudden you could have this serious drama based in just their Spider-Verse with them owning those characters. Well, I don't know if they own the
technically
the
did they
characters.
kill in Daredevil the reporter that everyone
They did, and they also switched his. They also made him black and then killed him off. He's a great actor, and I thought he did a really good job. So I don't know if they own the rights to Ben Urich, or maybe Ben Urich wasn't part of it, but the Daily Bugle definitely is, and stuff. And so there's stuff that they can do with this Spider-Man universe and stuff like that. So but here's the thing: we all know what Fox did, and we all know that Sony by themselves didn't have the foresight to get quality writers to make something that survived after the release in the movie. So
Spider-Man
3.
3.
100% they could water it down or overmine it, but I don't think they're there yet.
Okay.
And we could almost go the other way and say, wow, Marvel's really just making shows of absolutely every character or talking about that.
Well, let's continue on because there's lots to talk about. Quick side note, as we discussed before, for those who did not know at home, Sony had an opportunity to buy all the Marvel properties, everything, and they said no, thank you. We just want Spider-Man. So if you're talking about colossal blunders, when Marvel was basically filing for bankruptcy and they needed money badly, they sold the rights to Spider-Man for something like less than $30 million at the time. But this was in the 90s. When they were bankrupt, they offered everything besides the X-Men, so Spider-Man and everything else, and they said no, thank you. So whoever that Sony executive is probably just fuming because Kevin Feige, to his success or depending on your hate, has created something, as Andre said, not even 4th tier, like 0 tier. No one wanted any of these guys, so you couldn't even give them away. So, other news. So as we know, there's lots of the streaming wars is happening, and Disney Plus has unveiled in part of their phase 4 multiple TV shows, being Ms. Marvel, being Moon Knight, and She-Hulk. So these are the things that are coming out in 2022. But we had some news in regards to that, which was Tatiana Maslany from Orphan Black, Canadian actress. She's has been cast as the hero herself, She-Hulk. So in a TV show. So we don't know how many episodes. It will be a limited series. The way Kevin Feige has mentioned, it will be a limited series that may end up. These are secondary tier characters, kind of a dig, that will potentially end up in the movies. But Rob, what are your thoughts on She-Hulk? Just with the casting, we'll probably talk about her again, but your just initial thoughts.
Yeah, no, I'm good with it.
Because there are thoughts of she being too small. Someone we know close to us
I don't have
had mentioned, dude, she's not big enough. I don't want to name names. This one guy who owns a lot of shoes. I don't want to name names. But
I don't understand that. Mark Ruffalo didn't get jacked up and turned 8 feet tall by way of surgery to play the Hulk. So, I think that as an actress, she's great. I admittedly, and I've said this before, I'm on the record. I watched one episode of Orphan Black at the time, and I just wasn't into it. Just wasn't my jam. But I do intend to circle back and watch this series. I've heard nothing but great things. Currently watching Perry Mason, and she's great in that. So I'm cool with it. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Ruffalo has an appearance in the show to tie it in, because he's already made a comment on Twitter, welcome to the team, cuz, or whatever the case may be. So I'm cool with it. I think it'll be a good show. Let's just see. Listen, at the end of the day, they're not going to Lou Ferrigno her, right? They're not going to put her in green paint and crazy hair. So it's going to be all CG. Yeah. So at any rate, I'm good with it. Yeah, sure. Cool.
Andre, quick little detail about She-Hulk. Who is she, and why is she important?
So She-Hulk is the cousin of Bruce Banner. In the comic book origin, she was injured and had to have a blood transfusion. Her cousin was the match, and through his irradiated blood, she became the She-Hulk. And just like her brother, there's very many different iterations. But the first and foremost one that I think stands out and could be, really potential for a great TV show is that Jennifer maintains all her intellect and smarts, and when she becomes She-Hulk. So it's basically her and the comics that I think are the best is that she's a lawyer, so you can have She-Hulk defending you, this 6 foot tall Amazon, Hulk green skinned in a power suit coming into the courtroom to defend you. So I think that would be one of a good iteration for them to pick. But also she does have those times where she is as uncontrollable as the Hulk. Like sometimes in the current Avengers run, she had been basically dumbed down. And a new comic just dropped this week called The Immortal She-Hulk, because in the last comic series called The Empire, I believe, she died and she came back to life, much like the current comic series is The Immortal Hulk. But they're also taking that little dig back to Civil War II, where apparently she got killed, but people didn't realize. But people are saying that that's the first appearance of an immortal She-Hulk, because her eyes glow this like bright green, and then she comes back. But I don't think at the time, it wasn't like she was dead. In Empire, she was dead for days before they realized, because she was possessed by this plant thing. But anyways,
comics.
What is dead? What is dead? Oh, the only person that truly knows dead is Uncle Ben. Everyone else comes back.
Yeah.
There's only one man who
Marvel,
dies.
the original Captain Marvel. But so She-Hulk, very, very interesting character, very smart character, very dynamic character. I'm super excited for this casting choice. I just hope that they give her a brilliant script, because she is such a talented and underrated actress. She can spread, she does the whole gamut. Orphan Black, you watch that show just for her, and you're just blown away, because every character she plays, you swear to God it's a different person. She's fantastic. And
Let me go to John quickly, because John.
Oh, sorry, John. Yep, go ahead.
John looked like him pondering them. Look how deep thought he wants to drop some Tatiana Maslany details on us. But yeah, go John.
No, I actually haven't followed her career, but I've heard people rave about her in Orphan Black, so I'd imagine she's just gonna slay whatever this part is. But who doesn't like a good lawyer show? Law and Order, TNT, Good Fight.
Oh my God!
Good
Did
Wife,
you just drop TNT?
Kevin Hill, Suits, The Firm, all these lawyer shows.
Boston Legal, baby.
Yeah, you just chew them up. So basically, they're taking this superhero genre and taking this already golden TV genre, and we're just gonna slap them together now. So I think it's a recipe for success. And stop hating on TNT, Rob.
Do you think, quick thing, John? If it was more a lawyer show and maybe not as much fighting or no fighting,
I was thinking that. I was thinking, what if they focus more on the lawyer show, and every once in a while she has a She-Hulk moment where she has to deal with something. So it would be very similar to TNT, where they would have the lawyer room, and then something would go down.
Stop.
Mr. T they go through that montage where he goes to his locker, puts on his gear, laces up his boots, and busts some heads. So I'm down with it.
I'm down with that.
Actually, you know what I would like to see is for them to do their own spin on the original Incredible Hulk show with Bill Bixby, where she's a lawyer, but she keeps taking off. She breaks out like the She-Hulk. At the end of the episode, she walks off, and then she goes to a different town and solves some type of.
I feel like that would be an issue, being a legal lawyer in court.
Let me be clear for people at home that don't know She-Hulk. She's green all the time. She doesn't break out, and she's gonna be green the entire time. There's not.
You don't know. You don't know.
Not green.
Yeah, typically the character like stays in her She-Hulk mode in a lot of story arcs.
7, which is what makes her interesting, unlike Hulk, because she cannot hide the fact that she's the Hulk. So part of the Bill Bixby thing is that he wanders into town with his.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Though it'd be nice if they did a.
He just tears up the courtroom and moves to the next town, and then like. I think you're underestimating the power of TNT.
You hear that right now? I think that's Kevin Feige texting John, going, "More about this TNT idea." What happens?
Kevin Feige texting John saying, "Never text me again."
How did you get this number? New phone. Who dis?
Yeah.
All right. We'll jump into quickly talking about Ms. Marvel, because I want to get Rob's thoughts on Bad Boys for Life, of course. Ms. Marvel has acquired potentially 2 directors. The duo behind last year's movie is Bad Boys for Life. They'll be working on a series of episodes. That's Adil Al-Albid and Bilal Fahal. And these 2 directors who are hot on the market will be directing Marvel's first Muslim hero. So, Rob, what are your thoughts? Because you are a aficionado of Bad Boys for Life. Do you believe that their film style is perfect for Ms. Marvel?
Listen, I have no. Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan was outside of my wheelhouse. I came out way after I had stopped reading comics, and I haven't admittedly picked up any comics that have featured her because I'm more of a DC guy right now. I know that a lot of people are super excited that she's involved with the Avengers game that just came out on your PS4 and Xbox. So listen, from a style of a TV series, do these 2 directors, could they pull it off? Sure. How does their style work with this character? I can't say because I'm not overly familiar with the character, but sure. Yeah. I'll watch it. Again, I will watch this stuff. At the end of the day, I will watch it. Whether I like it or not, I don't know, but I'll watch it. I'll watch it all. Okay. So that's my 2 cents.
This is an important question for John Ho that I have to go ask on. Ms. Marvel, are you hyped about that TV show or the fact that Beverly Hills Cop 4 is coming out and they're also directing that movie? Which movie are you more interested in, John Ho?
I'm sorry, I got to throw it to Beverly Hills Cop. Beverly Hills Cop 1 is it's probably in my top 3 favorite
did you
movies
neglect
of
3?
all times.
Everybody neglects 3.
I actually love 3. I own it on Laserdisc.
What? Come on, man.
With Balki Bartokomous in there, and he actually gets to bust out the gun and everything like that. Like oh man,
he was
like
also
back in the day when he's jumping
right?
on the Ferris wheel, the Ferris wheel and stuff like that. I've seen Beverly Hills Cop 3. I don't know, probably at least like over 10 times. But number 1 is one of my all-time favorites. So unfortunately, I'll have to swing it to Beverly Hills Cop, but I am interested to see Miss Marvel. Like Rob said, people are going crazy for the game that she's like a main character in it.
Yep.
And I did enjoy Bad Boys for Life in theaters. I know it wasn't what people were expecting from a Bad Boys movie, but I did really enjoy it.
To your point, it was action set piece after action set piece with basically Will Smith and Martin Lawrence high-fiving and pointing at each other on a regular basis. So it's kind of what you wanted.
I feel like they toned it down, though. They could have went like Fast and the Furious style, but they tried to...
Well, the budget was only $90 million.
Yeah, infuse more story into there. But that script had been worked on since like God knows how long, right? So it probably didn't come out as perfect as they would like, but I liked the direction they took with it.
Yeah, it was better than Bad Boys 2, that's for sure.
Hell no.
Well, that's a whole different topic. I disagree.
Yet, but 2 is amazing.
Disagree. Andre, now is your time to shine. I want you to give us a brief synopsis of who Ms. Marvel is quickly, and your excitement over this TV show.
Well, for Kamala Khan, she's I think a high school student, and she's raised in a kind of strict Muslim family, and she gains the powers to stretch and super strength. And she's been such a big, huge fan of the Captain Marvel, and it's her inspiration. She takes the name on, and she vows to basically, save the world or save the neighborhood, all while getting back home under curfew and not getting found out. So the comic hit the world by storm, became instantly very popular among young readers and stuff. And it was
good luck picking up a first appearance. It's money book.
Yeah, like it was really good because it did have the duality and the struggles of not only being in high school but being raised in a strict household. And that's something that so many kids can relate to on its own. Like, you don't have to be of that ethnicity or of that religion to have strict parents, or have parents that just want you to study. And so a lot of the comic dwells on those things. And of course, you have very cool moments where the young heroes meet the Avengers and get put on the team of Avengers, and that's just, it's great. Like, they did form their own super team, but I like some of the best moments is when they're working alongside Captain America, Thor, and of course when she does meet Captain Marvel. There's some great moments.
What's their super team called again?
The superhero team that they formed is called the Champions.
Yep. And that was Nova,
young Cyclops, Hulk. What's his name?
Amadeus Cho.
And then Camilla Khan, as well as Miles Morales, Spider-Man. And the Vision's daughter. What's her name? Viv.
Viv.
Yeah. So cool superhero team. And so why I think this show is important is again, we talked a little bit about the beginning. John mentioned the importance of having female leads that are readily available and running their show. Like, if people are going to get excited about female Transformers, this is huge. A young female superhero that is not your typical superhero because it's somebody with a different ethnicity and a different background. So I think Marvel needed to do like more of this because they got to reflect what the world looks like. And the directors that they've chosen are of that background, and they will understand the cultural importance and stuff. So I think it's a very, very good move. Whether I don't think the TV show is going to be this Bad Boys or
they're directing, but I think they have the other
cop style. But again, it shows you got two people. They definitely know their way around Hollywood. They definitely know how to bring talent together. And they've gotten some solid projects. So if Disney Plus can bring this out, I think it's going to widen her reach for people to see these characters. And it's again, there's nothing like reaching a new audience and bringing them into the fold. So that's what superheroes.
Great metaphor, reach, because she stretches.
Exactly.
Yep.
I think that's what the MCU did. It brought superheroes into everybody's living room, but they haven't touched on any child or teenager heroes. And comics have always had them, right? From Batman having Robin to Kid Flash and Impulse and stuff like that. There's a ton of young superheroes out there, and sure, we got Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen in the cartoon, but live action I think is a whole different ball game. So
Tom Holland is Spider-Man, so Far From Home and whatnot.
Well, yeah, Spider-Man, but I think that's about it. If you look at the MCU, you don't have any other teenage heroes, and the comic realm.
To your point, Andre, I think at this point you could only have Spider-Man as a teenager for so long in the comic books. This is not The Simpsons; they don't live in that age forever.
Yeah, when he's recording himself and he's like, "Oh yeah, I just went out there. I'm blah 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 blah." Yeah, that's very like kids today now. So
which is why
setting Miss Marvel in that universe,
which is why Miles Morales fits perfectly in that Spider-Man niche, because you want that, as Andre mentioned, duality, and you just couldn't have Peter Parker doing it forever because it would just be weird, him still a teenager doing it. So you had to age him out eventually. Just doesn't make sense. Although the whole time agery thing in the universe doesn't make sense either, because now at this point in the year 2020, Magneto survived the apocalypse or the concentration camps, and you're like, when was that? Like, this is really stretching the boundaries of time. And now he's like, oh well, his Menek powers age him, like keeps him at the same age. I'm like, oh, here we're going. This is the weirdness that.
Well, that's going to be the challenge of the X-Men if they want to bring the X-Men in, and how do you modernize Professor X and Magneto's story and keep that gravitas? And we know in the comic books he was de-aged by, I think, Moira McTaggart. So you can't be doing that in a movie. Like, people are gonna be like, what the hell?
Even
like,
the Punisher, it changed from Vietnam to Afghanistan. So it's like, well, we can't do Vietnam anymore, so it's got to change it up. So
even Tony Stark,
a very different Punisher movie. Gran Torino Punisher.
Yeah. Sorry, Andre, the Tony Stark thing quickly.
Oh, I'm saying they changed the Tony Stark origin. Remember, in the movie, it was just basically weapon testing in, I guess it would be like the Middle East, as opposed to, again, his original origin was Vietnam as well. So, I think with Magneto, I know we're off topic, but that's going to be like a very, very tough rewrite. So they got to come up with something brilliant.
But depends, Andre, because this next thing is coming up, because as the rumors are swirling about Kang the Conqueror, maybe that's what happens. Maybe Kang will solve all our problems. As the demise of Thanos, Marvel, the MCU is looking for a next big bad. And the rumors that they are tapping Jonathan Majors to be Kang the Conqueror. Rob, what are your thoughts on the idea of Kang the Conqueror, and also the fact that being played by Jonathan Majors?
So Jonathan Majors is it Lovecraft Country, right? That's currently airing on HBO.
Andre mentioned that you should watch on the
and another series I haven't watched yet. I think I just want to binge it. That's my problem as of late. So
really,
I'm waiting
HBO guy didn't watch it.
I just want to bank them and then I'll watch them all. I think it's great. I think it's listen. I'll keep it brief. I think Kang, probably as far as I'm concerned, the best portrayal of him, it was in that Avengers cartoon that ran a number of years ago.
Yep.
And there's a lot of. I think this will help solve a lot of could solve a lot of the issues of recasting a lot of these actors for future roles. You'll. Multiverse dimensions. You have Kang time traveling and going through. I think that's how you get around having a new Tony Stark.
I think the Multiverse of Madness is going to do that portion of it, because there's lots of rumors about that. But
so I think Kang will tie into that, and the fact that he's being introduced in Ant-Man 3, I think is obviously of significant importance as well, with the effects of what happened with Ant-Man 2 at the end, right? So I'm all for it. I'm good. Listen. I'm a 44-year-old guy. You tell a 8-year-old Rob, back in 84, hey man, you're gonna have a
dates. This guy's dropping exact years.
You're gonna have because it's easy to do math, John.
That's fast. You're gonna have fast math.
You're gonna have a Kang the Conqueror movie. Like, he's gonna be in Ant-Man 2. I'd be like, get out of here. What's an Ant-Man 2 movie? What are you talking about, right? So, listen, it's all gravy as far as I'm concerned. Bring it all on. I just hope I don't get to a point where I'm in my 60s and having a tough time understanding all these interconnected universes, right? Because this is going to be a long time coming. That's the reality. This pandemic has obviously moved things back a couple of years. So, I potentially could be late into my 40s by the time Ant-Man 3 comes out. So
when you're in your 60s, that will be the slapstick movie that'll be coming out. You'll be like, finally a property they haven't used yet. I've been waiting since the early 80s for my slapstick movie, and here it is.
It would be Marvel's answer to Naked Gun. That's what I want. Right?
Well, Marvel's this slapstick character. But
so that's cool. Yeah, I'm good. I'm all for it. Bring it on.
For those of you who don't know Kang the Conqueror, I'll let Andre off the hook for this time. Kang the Conqueror is one of Marvel's most devious villains. He is the time traveler from the future who comes back in time, who fights the Avengers, who goes back in time and rules the world, goes forward in time and rules the world, etc., etc., etc. He was one of the founding members secretly, spoiler alert for Young Avengers, where you discover that Iron Lad was actually a younger version of Kang, who came back in time to, once meeting himself and realizing, I don't like this dude, I need to be a good guy. And then the reveal at the end is they're like, no, you have to be this guy, because without him, we don't get together and fight and save the world. He's like, oh man, begrudgingly, I have to be this bad guy again. So he has a lot of opportunities to be recast him, because he is young, old. he wears a purple face helmet all the time, which is weird. So
purple and green, if you're not
Purple and
familiar with his
green.
color scheme.
Purple and blue. Purple and blue.
yeah, purple and blue.
It's the
Purple-
internet. Is
jumpsuit
it
not
green?
green?
Is it blue? I'll have to
Yeah.
figure it out.
So, there's lots of opportunity for, as Rob mentioned, for him, but I think the multiverse of madness, and there's lots of rumors, and we'll talk about that close to the movie, because the dream that is Tom Cruise in the Marvel MCU has John bubbling with joy. Look at that grin. He can't
I'm
help
down.
himself right
I'm
now.
down.
If Tom Cruise is in this movie, he might melt. So
It's too old.
Never.
If it's a cameo,
Never.
it's a cameo, Rob. It doesn't matter. In for 3 seconds and out. Just like Tobey Maguire wearing the costume again for Kicks and Giggles. So, but John, to you, what is your thoughts on Kang the Conqueror?
Yeah, Kang is a character I'm not super familiar with, other than that brilliant Young Justice story arc that you talked about.
Not Young Justice, it's the
yeah.
Avengers.
Oh yes, Young
Avengers
Avengers.
Assemble.
That's some serious time traveling, John.
That's a whole different universe.
He's jumping all over the place. Yeah, and the actor, unfortunately, I'm not familiar with him. But I am excited to see this particular character, and especially the character is actually going to be added to the Marvel Champions card game as one of the bad guy expansions, and it's going to feature all these different timelines that your characters are going to travel in. So I'm really excited for that to come out. So I think I'm going to become very familiar with Kang. So to actually have him on screen after that, it's going to be awesome.
Awesome, Andre.
Yeah. So Kang is a really cool villain, because he usually doesn't get beat. He just retreats into time and plots again. But I will say, I also feel that over all the years, there's been really good stories with him and really bad stories with him, and it has become convoluted. One of my favorite stories with Kang, and I highly recommend the trade paperback that's out there, is called Avengers Forever. And Kang's manipulating stuff, and he pulls Avengers from different timelines and different periods, and they have to stop this threat. But as I was a big Iron Man collector from the comic and stuff, and there was a storyline called The Crossing, and Tony Stark died, and the Avengers went into time and brought a younger version of him, because the world couldn't have no Tony Stark and stuff. But it was revealed at the end of that thing that Tony Stark, young Tony Stark, ended up becoming Kang. So it's very, very confusing, and I know they've probably changed that a couple of times and stuff like that. And again, so we might not really know who Kang is, except, like Stu just mentioned, is that Iron Lad was and is still Kang. And again, the reason why Iron Lad was Iron Lad in the thing is because he had ties to the Stark lineage and stuff. So I really like the actor who's playing Kang. I think he's great. I'm watching Lovecraft Country, and this guy, he's got presence. He's a big muscular guy, but he's also playing a smart guy. He's got heart. He's got emotion. So I think he can play the part. I think just my concern is that I've always said for the MCU in particular that you can modernize your casting, and race shouldn't play be the only facet when you are doing these characters, right? And they have gone on and now changed the race of a couple of characters and stuff in the MCU. But unfortunately, and this might just be a personal gripe, maybe I'm just ragging on it, but this will be the second time where we will have a black person cast in a role that for a character that was white, but these characters are villains, right? So we've got this casting, right, and he's Kang, and then we had what's his name? Chiwetel
Ejiofor.
Yeah, for Baron Mordo.
Ejiofor.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. As Baron Mordo. Again, brilliant actor, and he did start off playing the good guy, but at the end of the movie, we saw him going at magic. And if you know your comics, his name is Mordo, so he will become a bad guy. So maybe you can't say he is a bad guy now, but I just question when they make these casting choices in the current MCU,
So
like the current
quick
MCU.
point, Andre.
Now, I'm not saying this is,
So, yes,
what they're doing, because technically they did make Valkyrie a person of color as well, and she stayed a hero, so that's good. But I'm just saying these are a couple big roles that have switched. So I guess I would like to see it like even out a little bit more.
So to your point, Andre, although you do not like The Mandalorian, John Esposito, who plays the bad guy, and who plays Moff Gideon, did mention that it's a badge of honor to be given a juicy part of like a villain. It's an honor to be given these type of roles, because typically the roles you get are sidekicks or like secondary characters. To get a role that is juicy, has depth, and may or may not be a bad guy. An acting role is an acting role. You care about what that role is and how much depth there is. You don't care about whether they're good or bad. So the fact that these actors, Ejiofor Ejiofor, an Academy Award or nominated actor, got that type of role, which is Baron Mordo is an interesting character, and Kang is an interesting character. It's better that people get these roles that people are fighting for than just get the sidekick role or just get a support character. I know what you're saying about them, these two major roles, but
look, he's got to say that, right? Wouldn't he, like in this case, why not? You could have cast
an Asian guy. Like, again, it's whoever the actor's choice of, and yes, you want.
They haven't. Okay, but from my point, Stu, is that they haven't done this race swap for a big named hero, right? So that's all I'm getting at. So optics are everything, right? So yes, Valkyrie was this character.
Well, we can talk about that momentarily with Hawkman, because there's a lot of vitriol coming out from the internet about Hawkman, because they tried, and we can jump to it momentarily, but there are a lot of people that are not happy about the casting of that, because
that's exactly the point. See, nobody's unhappy when they switch and they make the person of color the villain. Yeah, right, like
everyone's okay with it.
Yeah, look at all the parts. Like, you could say, yeah, playing a villain is great, but the problem is with media, and when people watch this, they get these ideas that.
But there's not attachment to those characters, because who really knows about Baron Mordo? Who really knows much about Kang? But when they change Wally West, and they're like, oh, by the way, we're changing Wally West. People who grew up, how many people of red hair are there superheroes of? And you basically erased one of them. So I'm not saying that but it is a thing where people have an attachment to the characters, and someone like Hawkman, who has dozens of comic books, that are named after him, and to change it quickly, it's something that, was one of the reasons why I wasn't a super fan of the first Star Trek movie, because they changed a lot, and they're like, oh, they killed a universe off. I'm like, it took me a while to adjust, but we'll get to that momentarily. To your point, it is something that I was going to bring up during the Hawkman portion of it, but we'll get to that momentarily. So jumping off of Kang, and again, Nick Fury as well. So Nick Fury, this is something that is also a Disney Plus show. It is, again, Nick Fury was another ethnicity to start. It got changed in the Ultimates universe, where Bendis wrote Nick Fury as African American, and there was even a panel where it was the Wasp asking who would play you in the movie. He's like, Samuel L. Jackson, of course. And that came into reality, and Samuel L. Jackson is Nick Fury. And now we are used to Nick Fury being African American, even though the Hoff to this day said that
must be mad upset.
the creator of this character told me, Stan Lee, that as long as they're making Nick Fury, I will be Nick Fury, because he was Nick Fury in that crappy TV movie. So this is a thing that is happening. So there is reports from Variety about the Nick Fury TV show, whether it be Sword, whether it be Shield, who knows. But Rob, tell me your thoughts on another Nick Fury TV show. Will that dilute the brand of Shield? Because you've watched a lot of Shield recently, which is good. Do you want it to continue that or not that, or what do you want?
That was a whole different Shield TV show. That was a Michael Chiklis TV show.
I love that show
with the thing, but yeah.
Yeah, listen, I said this, we have a little group chat amongst ourselves throughout the week, and I had said that, with these announcements from Disney Plus, I worried that it just dilutes the brand overall. You have, you know, you have all these TV shows, and we've talked about a few of them, the She-Hulk, the Miss Marvel, you've got Moon Knight eventually that they've announced, that maybe some casting news will be coming out in the next couple of weeks about that. You've got Nick Fury. Is it just too much? Does it take away from the MCU film universe? Like, is it just too much? That was the question I just posed. And I know that you're vehemently against that idea that people, there are always going to be marks who will always be paying money to watch this stuff. So I get it. Am I happy that there's a Nick Fury series? Listen, yeah, sure. Again, as I said, all this entire show, I will watch these episodes. I will watch them. However, does this require a 10-episode series? I don't know. It depends what the storyline is. But I think you can only go to the well one too many times. Give me a good solid 6 episodes if this is going to be like a really good show, an espionage or whatever the case may be, and I'll watch it. I'll enjoy it. Give me a bit of a harder, like that Nick Fury scene in Captain America Winter Soldier when he's driving and he's in that SUV and it starts being bombarded and he's popping up the gun and he's, you know, like that was amazing. Like
what does work
and extract that and expand that, mine that moment into like a 6-episode series, I'm all for it, right? So I'd rather have that than him appearing behind people's farm trucks, you know, to talk to Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. So
right now, Feige has basically said that each series on Disney Plus would be around $100 to $150 million in budget. So far, of all the Wave 1 TV shows, WandaVision, 6 episodes, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, 6 episodes, Loki, 6 episodes. So they do 6 episodes every few months, which is basically stretched out. That's like one, you know, ABC TV show where it's 22 episodes. So it won't wear out its welcome. And if it's 6 episodes of Hawkeye, 6 episodes of Miss Marvel, 6 episodes of Moon Knight, 6 episodes of She-Hulk, it will leave you wanting more. It won't be 13 episodes of Iron Fist where I'll just pay myself to finish watching. So if it's that 6 episodes,
is that a crazy budget in the general scheme of things compared to like maybe Netflix shows or whatever?
Well, who knows? With Netflix,
or
those were 10, those are 12, 13 episodes, and you could tell like they were just stretching it out for the sake of, hey, we've got all this money, let's make 13 episodes, and it didn't require it. You know,
I can tell you that. Sorry, Rob, too quickly. I can tell you that 22 episodes of Stargate SG-1 did not have $100 million budget. So, you know, SG-1, which a lot of people still love, did not, or even Supernatural does not have $150 million budget for 22 episodes.
But that's like Mandalorian budget then, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, so
Mandalorian
looks pretty crazy.
Mandalorian was 250 or something crazy.
Yeah, okay, so they got like half that budget. Yeah, okay.
I would just rather, if it's going to be like the WandaVision or Falcon and Soldier and Fury, because they are such pillars in the MCU film universe. If you're just going to give me 6 and that's it, then I'm cool. I don't want season 3, season 4 of these TV shows. I think if you're going to do the She-Hulk, the Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, this and that, I'm good for the couple of seasons if you want to integrate them to, you know, propel them into the film universe. But that's my point.
Rob? Can we timestamp this, John? Because for Rob saying he doesn't want more, because once Falcon and Winter Soldier comes out, he watches 6. It's like, I can't wait to watch more. It's like, nope, Rob only wants 6. Even he doesn't want any more. That's it. I want,
because I don't see how you keep. This is where I make the comment about being diluted. Is that how do you keep jumping between TV to movies? I think that's the problem. Is that it. Again,
based on the trailer from WandaVision, I would want more than 6 episodes. I'm super interested.
But then they go back into the film universe. All I'm saying is, when is it?
I see what Rob's saying. Like the Netflix, you could argue that the Netflix maybe went too expanded too much. They could have kept just Daredevil and introduced characters in there instead of creating like 5 shows and like throwing them all at you, right?
Well, it's at the end of the day, the secret thing is it's a streaming service that needs content. So Marvel needs to produce stuff because you gotta pay to be on the service. But if it's 6 episodes, you can get these Hollywood A-listers to do a 6-episode TV show. That's really what it's about. people like scheduling is like, oh, I do 6 episodes, you can pay me how much? Yeah, I'm in. Like, it's not a full year of commitment and I can still do what I want to do.
Yeah, but I just saying to slingshot back and forth between film and TV for multiple seasons, I think just dilutes the brand.
Well, we'll see.
That's my.
Andre, I'm gonna get you going 1 second because I know you have a lot to say. I'm gonna have John go first, and then Andre, you're gonna.
Well, no, can I retort?
Because you're gonna go too long. So let me go John first, and then it's all
now
you.
I'm gonna forget what I gotta say.
Well, you're gonna have to remember. That's part of the game.
I'll go quick. I'm
John's gonna say I got nothing, so don't worry about it.
No, if you've ever followed Samuel L. Jackson's career or listened to him in interviews, the guy busts his ass. He's a hard worker. He's gonna show up every day, probably before everyone else shows up to set. So if they're gonna give him a TV show, he's gonna give like 110%. So as long as whoever's scripting it and doing it gives him good content, I think it's going to work.
Do you want a Shield or Sword TV show, John? If you had to pick one or the other.
I tried to keep up with Shield and I couldn't get into it, so I definitely will go. I'll go Sword.
Okay, Andre, your point. See, look at that.
All right, cool. So I want a couple points. I want to touch on what Rob said.
Couple points. Here we go. Get the time clock ready, boys.
This is a discussion we'd have in the store, so I get to say. All right. So first thing. I agree with what Rob's saying partly, but we are now in a new world where maybe it's actually easier for them to make shows than to schedule movies.
100%.
Maybe Disney is like, yo, we are turning this way and everybody's going to have Disney Plus. And if that's the case, it's smart. Look, there's no way we're going to get these big blockbuster movies made where they're jumping from country to country to have these cool set pieces and stuff like that. Also, for some of these characters, especially Avengers like WandaVision, Nick Fury, we didn't get a ton of them because the Avengers movie was so many characters, right? So if we can get something cool that focuses on these characters that are going to be in these ensemble casts that unfortunately have to focus on the biggest paid star, then that's a good way to kind of fill out and get people to know it. Now, for the Sam Jackson, Nick Fury thing, I'm excited. Like John said, he does give 110%. But I think what could be cool is give us that time period right after, was it Winter Soldier? Where
Winter Soldier.
He disappears for 6 months or whatever. And let's see what he was doing then. That could be what Rob's talking about, this espionage, behind the scenes. He's all over the place and doing stuff. So I think that's I think out of all of the ones, I think Nick Fury is probably the one needed most because he's only really had cameos. And I wasn't a fan of his portrayal in the Captain Marvel movie. And that's the movie we got the most Nick Fury, but it wasn't the Nick Fury badass that we saw. So I want to see badass Nick Fury. Give me 6 episodes of that and make it actual Nick Fury spy thriller with some with some over the top or 8 over the top action scene. I think that
you're gonna get 6 episodes of Nick Fury going to the optometrist going, does this look infected? I feel like something's not right. That's what you're gonna get.
He can go to Dr. Bruce Banner. He'll look at it.
He's not an optometrist.
Come on, optometry, please. Don't yell at me. Andre, quick thoughts on, can you tell us the difference between Sword and Shield?
Oh yeah, so Shield is for all threats emanating across the planet, and then Sword is to protect the Earth from extraterrestrial stuff. Really good question. Great segue to, if anybody is interested, Jonathan Hickman's X-Men run, fantastic. There's a new book that just launched called 10 of Swords, X of Swords, but it's 10 of Swords. And they are going to be spinning and bringing back a Sword comic. I think it's coming in a couple of months. And the Sword is run by a character called Abigail Brand, who was introduced originally in Astonishing X-Men number 6. And that was Josh Whedon's X-Men run. So Sword is a really cool concept. It is still relatively new. But yeah, I don't know what the acronyms stand for, unfortunately. But yeah,
Rob will look into that. Rob can Google that while we're chatting. I know Rob cannot wait to say what that
stands for S words.
Yeah.
Well, first we can play the acronym game. Rob, can you guess what sword is, and then you can do your bit.
Oh,
I can't even guess.
I think it means, okay, if I was to guess, I'd probably say Sentient World Observation and Response Department.
Whoa, look at this guy.
He pulled it up already.
He pulled it up real quick already.
Liar.
You ask, you shall receive.
It's better. I wish you said I got nothing. That was your chance.
I know. You know what? You're right. I actually
No,
did.
his
We've
brain
already gone to
wants
that
be
well
right
a couple times this episode, so I didn't want to overexpose it like Army Hammer.
Overexposed
Army
like Chris
Hammer
Evans.
days.
That's the correct term. Overexposed like Chris Evans.
Yee.
No, Chris Evans, we love you. So to that point, we glossed over. So Samuel L. Jackson is Nick Fury. So that is a character, again, I think to your point, Andre, as long as there's not too much knowledge of a character, people are fine when you switch it over. Because I think that was a gradual change. It happened with Iron Fist. There was a lot of talk when Iron Fist was originally coming out that, like, can we do this where it's an Asian guy, where he's mixed? And that's when John's boy Lois Tam was like maybe involved. It's like, if he's a mixed ethnicity, then the Asianness wouldn't be so weird with a white guy pretending, to white guy martial arts. So, and people were not pleased, and they're like, okay, we'll go with the guy from Game of Thrones, and that worked out, as you say, perfectly.
Two different things going on here. So I remember when we were first launching our YouTube channel, my very first video was about the importance of keeping Iron Fist in particular as his ethnicity, because the whole point of the Iron Fist comic was a stranger in a strange land, and he was ostracized, he was put down, but he had the strength of character and stuff to become their champion, right? So he had to have been that.
He doesn't have to be. Because there are Asians who have never been back to Asia, and that's still strangers who don't know the language, who are born here, who are third generation, who are strangers in a strange land.
True, but for that comic, for that thing to be hit home, that would be like then saying, oh, let me change Shang-Chi, let me change this. It was important that the character have those traits. So yeah, could you have said, oh, let's make Iron Fist a black guy? I guess sure, he could be Daniel Rand, sure, you could do that.
Michael J. White, call him up.
So, but the difference is when you look at the Sam Jackson thing, right? They didn't just take Nick Fury and say we're putting him to Sam Jackson. That was, like you said in the comic, the Ultimate. So the Ultimate Universe was this different Marvel universe, and they literally drew Sam Jackson. I don't know if it was with his permission or not. Probably not.
I don't think so.
And then he was just like, well, now that you've done it, if you make a movie, I'm going to be that guy. So it's not like they consciously made the effort for the movie to change it. It was established in the Ultimate Universe.
How did he become black in the 616?
So in the 616, Nick Fury actually is still white, and he's somewhere off on the moon. He got in, what was the name of that crossover, John? Was it Fear Itself or something? Where
he became a Watcher, right?
Ended up becoming kind of like the Watcher. Now, how they brought in a Nick Fury Jr. is that it's, spy Nick Fury, white guy, knocked up a black woman and happened to have a kid that comes out looking like Sam Jackson, right? So it's Nick Fury Jr. in the 616.
Robin's like, that how babies are made?
Wait. Right? So it's a little bit different. Like, yes, we can say yes, Sam Jackson is a black guy, and they change it. Yeah, but for the uninitiated, know that because they didn't realize that they're two different comic worlds that make the MCU. Being they took parts from the Ultimate Universe and part from the regular Marvel Universe and stuff. So I think while he is an example, we have to put that in quotation marks because they didn't make that decision for the movie. It was, we took it from the comics, so that's why we're running with it. Now, perfect segue for your Hawkman news.
Well, not there yet, but yeah,
Oh, we're not
we're not there yet. Thanks, but
too soon, Junior.
Too soon. Too soon.
You hit the nos too soon, Andre.
Too soon. Almost there. Rob, and so that is the story of how babies are made. They're not carried by storks. So carry on.
Mind blown. Let me just tell you.
Thank you, Rob, for humoring me. Quickly, before we jump to DC stuff, because we're almost there. All the movies, no surprise. Charlie Brown footballed Rob again, so all the movies are being pushed back till next year. No surprise, surprise. Black Widow moved to May 7th, 2021. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, July 9th, 2021. And The Eternals, which is already done, but somehow being pushed back to November 5th, 2021. So, Rob,
have they filmed any Shang-Chi yet?
Oh, they're doing it right now. It's
they've resumed. They've filmed quite a bit of it already.
They filmed a lot of it already, and there are, if people want to be spoiled, pictures and videos of people them filming in Australia right now. They're also filming Thor right now. So Thor, God
Andre's favorite.
So Andre cannot wait to see a female Thor, but it's happening.
As a quick aside, Taika Waititi has actually used the technology that he witnessed on The Mandalorian in season 1 he integrated that into Thor. That's how they're able to almost get this thing up and running quite quickly. So
we talked about that recently. Yes, it's the outside of it's now the largest of that studio technology in the world that's currently built in Australia. They'll be building another one soon, but the one they have in the UK, which is a smaller version, they built a bigger one in Australia, and they're going to build a bigger one in the US. So Marvel can now do it in their
Texas, because everything's bigger in Texas.
Real estate's cheap. That's the thing. And Atlanta's already all backed up already because of all the Tyler Perry movies, and they own all the studios there. So you can't infringe on Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
So that's all the movies. So Rob, are you excited for 2021 now that everything's moved out there? And
listen, man, 2021 is going to, if these movies actually make it out into theaters in 2021, and I think we have to put an asterisk next to it, much like Sammy Sosa's home run record. I think
good Paul. Yeah.
I think we need to be able to we have to be cognizant of the fact that we don't know if these things are actually going to be dropping in 2021, right? So not to be like the big guy that, is going to poo-poo on the idea. I hope it does. And if it does, if all the movies are scheduled now, have been rescheduled to come out in 2021, we're going to need a second mortgage on the house, sweetheart, because I'm dropping tons of cash on movie tickets, right? So, but let's see if they all come out. And this is why you got Falcon and Winter Soldier being pushed back, because it ties into what happened in Black Widow, supposedly, right? So it's a domino effect. So we'll see.
John, how do you feel that at this moment in life where we will not get an MCU movie this year? We're typically get one a year, and now
it's crazy. I think someone said it's like being 22 months since the last one, or some ridiculous thing before we'll see the next one.
We ended off with Far From Home, and that was a downer. And now we're and then Endgame, and that was a downer. So all the fun stuff was supposed to come to us, and here we're at. So what are your thoughts on the?
I really did want to see Black Widow, so I was hoping it was digital, but you know what, if you look at the whole will it make money yada yada yada, so they got to hold it back. I understand that. So I'm fine with it. We've already waited this long. I've already forgotten half of these things are supposed to be coming out. Like I had forgotten Wonder Woman was supposed to be out and stuff like that, because there's so much other stuff going on, and the TV is going to be the new landscape. So you know what? It might be good, like Rob said. Maybe we were getting too much of it, so maybe this break gives us time to now they're back, and we're like, okay, yeah, let's
and then we fall off the wagon in 2021 and all become massive
and then every other week it becomes a Marvel movie. Sure, whatever, right. That's gonna happen. But the big gap, like I definitely, like even at the point where we stopped, like even Endgame, I probably was a little fatigued. My heart wasn't, like, I did enjoy Endgame in the theaters, but my heart probably wasn't as hyped as it should have been for a movie of that caliber, of that much stuff coming together. So I probably could have used the break. So I'm fine with it.
Andre, thoughts?
Yeah, I think it is what it is, right? Like they want, these movies have made so much money in the past, and I think they are attached to that dollar sign and that bag of money. So they want to hold out as long as possible. If this thing persists and they can't put it out in 2021, I know for a fact they're going to have to change it, because they're spending money now making new movies. And if these other movies that they've already banked and finished aren't coming out, nobody's going to give Disney that other, how much money did they borrow, Stu? Like $5 billion.
Yeah.
Nobody's giving them another $5 billion.
Oh no, someone's gonna give them $5 billion. That's not.
I don't know. Like
Tyler Perry will give them $5 billion.
Who?
The money is not the problem. It's the money. They'll get the money. They have a lot of assets they can put up on side for this.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, like I said, if they keep delaying it, like you said, all these other projects are going to think they're just going to have to be like, okay, we're going to try and break even on some other type of release. So maybe they do open in the theaters where places are under control, and then put it on Disney Plus like they did Mulan for $30, and then move on. But listen, if I think that if they don't start coming out in 2021 like they're supposed to, I don't think they can wait till 2022. I think
they're bigger world problems, Andre, to your point, if that's the case. They need to get back some of their investment. But that's why they're so heavily involved in streaming, because guess what Netflix did? They made a boatload of money during the pandemic because no one could go watch any stuff. And Disney Plus has a problem with content. They didn't have as much stuff as we wanted. We talked about this in the very beginning. You log into Disney Plus, you're like, this is all you got? And I'm paying how much for it?
Yep.
And they required Hamilton. They required a bunch of, and they spent a lot of money on Hamilton, and that boosted their numbers. But you just need people to get onto your platform. So these Marvel movies that will transition into TV shows will get people to buy the streaming service. And even if it's there, people are like, well, I want to see these other shows, and stringing you along with the Loki TV show or a WandaVision TV show or, Falcon and Winter Soldier. So we'll see what happens in terms of content, because they can make money off streaming for sure, because they're not making money off of anything else. So Disney's got to keep on making these TV shows. So we'll see whether it's a Star Wars one, whether it's Marvel one.
And whether you like it or not, Mandalorian on that service looks incredible. Like the money they threw into that. So if they can release a caliber Marvel property like that, like
it may not be as good as Andre believes as the Watcher, but the Witcher. So, but in terms of the CGI, you could say the Witcher does not look as nice as the Mandalorian, but that's just flash over substance, as some would say. But nonetheless, okay, now we are finally, as we're wrapping things up slowly, we've moved finally to the Sisters of the Poor, the DCU. News of Black Adam that Eldris Hodge is going to be Hawkman. He, of course, as I remember him from Supernatural season 2. Some people remember him in Leverage, or John knows him as Ray Voodoo from Friday Night Lights.
Voodoo Tatum.
Friday Night Lights. Him and Black Panther, or no, him and Killmonger.
Michael B. Jordan, yeah.
Michael B. Jordan fighting it out to be the dominant of football in Texas. So he has been cast as Hawkman. This is where, Andre, we were talking before, where there's been a lot of praise of the casting and a lot of what is going on with this casting. So, Rob, I'm going to go for you first again, because Andre is going to come with some hot takes. So what are your thoughts on this casting? Because we know what John feels, and we kind of know what Andre feels. But what are your thoughts on the casting of Hawkman?
I just as an actor, I mean, I
was also in Star Trek as well.
Yeah, I was looking at his IMDb stuff. He's a recognizable individual. Mm-hmm. He's one of those guys like, oh, I've seen him in something, but nothing stands out. I think he's got a lot of credits.
He was in Jack Reacher 2.
Sorry?
He was in Jack Reacher 2.
Yes, he was. That. Yeah, and I know he was
very small part though.
Yeah, and he was in. I think he was one of the guards in the prison, and he was also in Black Mirror and some of that. So he's got a lot of credits to his name. I'm just not overly familiar with his work to say, oh, I remember him as a lead in that movie or show.
I think he's been a lead, but this is a support role, so he's not.
But listen, in Dwayne Johnson, I trust, man. Dwayne Johnson has got himself. I do. Sorry, Stu. I think he seems to pick actors he knows he can work well with, who bring something to the table or to that role that I think compliments The Rock's, Dwayne Johnson's role.
Like Kevin Hart.
I don't understand the outcry, or I don't get it. Listen, pardon my French. I don't give a fuck. Like if the actor is a good actor and he brings something to the role, I don't care. So, whatever. I don't know what the outrage is about. Like I said, he has a lot of credits to his name. He's obviously an accomplished. I look at accomplishment in the fact that he's been doing it for so long. He has so many. He's constantly working. So he obviously has, he's got skill in his craft. So cool. I'm looking forward to it. I don't give a shit. So
yeah. Well, for those who don't know, the outrage is really that Hawkman is usually portrayed in comics as a Caucasian man, and
and Hawkman was invented in like the 50s, right? Like the people who wrote and created Hawkman, Carter Hall, the original incarnation of him.
But that's the same thing that Andre just said about Shang-Chi, about he should remain and Andre will get his time to shine.
But what my point was though is that when they created these characters back in the day, they were reflective of the individuals that were around them at that time. It's a different time. I don't give a shit, right? Like I want the actor to be a good actor, be somebody that can represent that role, walk into the boots or the wings of that role, pull it off, and that's great. I don't give a shit. So, yeah, I want to see the movie. I'm hyped to see the movie. So, cool. That's all I have to say about that.
John has nothing to say.
What? Rob finished. Oh,
I got nothing. All right, Andre.
All right. Your background flipped out for a second. So he played Ray Voodoo Tatum in Friday Night Lights, one of my top 3 all-time favorite shows, and he's arguably one of the best characters in the show, in a show filled with characters that all came out really, really cool. Like I don't know who brought that out in all those actors and actresses for that show, but I think he's gonna kill this. Like he didn't really have much of a part in the Jack Reacher movie, and I've seen him in his other stuff, but for Friday Night Lights, he killed it. So I'm looking forward to seeing him on screen again.
All right. Okay. Andre?
Yeah, so this is a pretty interesting one because I am on the record of saying, you keep the characters as they are if the story demands it, right? So again, in the case of Iron Fist, I did feel that the story demanded that the character be that part, right? Now, for this instance, again, I don't really get why people are upset. Now, we have The Rock, who is a mix of Black and Hawaiian heritage, playing a Middle Eastern god, right? That's a shakeup. And let's dive a little bit further. Depending on which version of Hawkman they are using, Hawkman is a character that has a lot of different history, and there is an argument. Well, there's like part of Hawkman is this concept of past lives and stuff. And him and Hawkgirl, they were in one of their incarnations Egyptian nobility. And Egypt's in Africa, for those who do not know. And there's no native-born white people at that time in Africa.
Have you seen Gods of Egypt, Andre?
Yes.
I believe that.
Yes, exactly.
I believe that's canon. Didn't Christian Bale also, wasn't he a god of? Wasn't he an emperor? There something about? Him and
he was in that movie.
No, he was in another.
Okay.
He was in another movie with him and
Joel Edgerton.
Yes, yes, the two British guys in Egypt as well. So this is the thing that that is canon as well. But yes, go on, Andre.
So yeah, I think he's a good choice. Look, I think they're building an interesting cast for this movie, but it goes to my point that I was trying to raise earlier. Nobody's gonna bat an eye when you change the ethnicity and make them a villain, but change the ethnicity of a perceived hero. And look, Hawkman isn't even on the radar of like anybody. And look at the backlash. These people that are upset couldn't tell you two different origins of Hawkman. One of the best origins of Hawkman, I spoke to it in one of the earlier podcasts, is he's from an alien planet called Thanagar.
Yeah.
Well, they now have black people on Thanagar. Maybe that's where this guy's coming from. So the people getting upset, like Rob said, you know, you give them the big FU. Like it's actually.
Can we not bring back Michael Shanks from Stargate SG-1 to be Hawkman, because as he was in Smallville. There you go, John.
I think they're going with Carter Hall. I think with the archaeologist. I think that's what.
Yes.
That's
again,
what I think I read.
Carter Hall, the archaeologist, has had these different iterations because Carter Hall, the name came from Qatar Hole.
Yeah.
And they have mixed it. Now, of course, I'm giving you guys comic knowledge, or we're talking from the comic, and they could change and do whatever they want for the movies, and that's what they do. Right. But for these people to think that there is no precedent for what they're doing, they're sadly mistaken. And again, it just goes to show, like I said, there is this unfortunate bias that people of color, you know, can't play these roles. And when I say people of color, I'm not talking about black people. I'm talking about Asian people. I'm talking about you know, native populations. I'm talking
Middle
about
East,
like Middle Eastern, anything. And I think that's, to be honest with you, you know, like that's where when you get, like, why, you know, we were all raving about Black Panthers, is when you get the opportunity to have other cultures shine on screen and you see that they can be leading men and leading women, you have to have these things that make changes so that the opportunity for people to be shown in a positive light is there. We can't have the leading men and women of every movie be your Brad Pitt, your Tom Cruise, you know, what's the guy's
Matt Damon.
The Matt Damon. Like these guys. And also on that note, it can't only be for the other leading men. It can't just be your Will Smith and your Denzel Washington. You know, there's more types of people out there, and diversity exists, and they are great actors, just not put, like the other guy said, maybe they're always put to tertiary roles. So the choice shouldn't be tertiary role, sidekick, or villain. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
right?
Esposito was basically saying that he grew up watching Star Wars movies where the villains were British, and those were the fun roles, and that to be able to be that as an actor and then inspire other actors of you know, minorities, that hey, you can be a good bad guy too. You can do something besides like a thug or like a drug dealer. Like this is, there's other avenues to be. You can be a villain in a galaxy far, far away, which wasn't the option for you.
A villain, Stu. A villain is still a villain. So if
not really.
No.
If the depth of villain is
from a cultural standpoint, if all we ever see was, you know, the actor who played Shang in Mortal Kombat, he always plays a villain, the Asian guy, always. Right, and if all we see is these Asian people portrayed as villains, or all we see is black people.
Yeah, but I disagree, Andre. It's the same thing as Asians being the villain only as a kung fu master. Can you not be a villain of something else? Like, why do you have to be? Why do you have to know kung fu every single time?
We've seen it now. We're in 2020. We're seeing how ignorant people are, and we're seeing that certain people only have access to television and the internet, and that's how they judge people. And if that's all that they're going to see, they're gonna wallow in this sea of ignorance and not know that people aren't that way, right? And it's unfortunate. It really is. Like, I'm going back even, like, you know, again, I don't want to harp on the part because maybe I am got blinders on and I'm not seeing when they change things. But look at when they cast Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin. You know, everyone's like, oh, he nailed the role. He nailed the role. Yeah, he did. But they cast him just because he was huge. You know what I mean? And black. Again, you could have made, at that point, you could have, like, there was probably no thought to say, hey, let's make Daredevil black. There's probably no thought, but they had no problem making Kingpin black. And then when they do switch it up, right, there's also this big controversy. Like, look at the controversy when Michael B. Jordan was playing Human Torch. Right now, I know that movie was not well received, but there were still people saying, oh, why is Johnny Storm black? So that's what I'm saying, right? And it sucks that it's there, but they have the ability to work with it because these are not, it's not, like Rob said, it's not 1950 and we're
I understand what you're saying, Andre. I just think that the villain parts are something that is unique and difficult, and there's a level of nuance that's required. And unfortunately, those type of roles are usually given to British actors of a certain ethnicity, and that's it. Like all the juicy roles are given to those guys, and because they have an accent, and that's it. But to get a good bad guy role is hard.
A lot of different actors have gone on record to say they prefer playing the villain or the bad guy because they're not housed in in morality as the protagonist, right? That they are free to unleash their acting chops. So a lot of actors do prefer to play the antagonist as opposed to the protagonist, right? Because of that, they're not bound by rules. So at any rate, that was just to support what Stu was saying. But I hear what you're saying, Andre.
Yeah,
I have nothing. I can't comment on.
And I think that having ethnicity, especially bad guys in science fiction, is something that doesn't happen very often. Typically, it's something that is not always the case.
Everything you said also applies to playing the good guy. So again, if both parts are, you need depth and are juicy roles you can sink your teeth into. Why not give them both? It shouldn't take a black centered movie for us to have a black hero. You know what I mean?
Here's the other thing too. It's like
have to be
at this point.
Look at let me finish. Sorry to cut you off, Stu. Look at the outrage when there was talk of Idris Elba playing James Bond. And don't tell me that he would have been better than anybody they've got lined up. Anybody. And James Bond is a fictional character, and they could have even made it that James Bond is just an alias, right? Yeah. So, of course, you want to see people doing...
Well, they do have a 007 who's a black female. So we're the new Bond movie it's the tag. The tag is 007. She is now...
The tag is 007. She's not James Bond. Yes. And, of course, it's part of the movie and Bond comes back, and we haven't seen the movie. Yes. Yeah. But it doesn't defeat what I'm talking about, Stu. There's so much outrage and outcry.
But here's the other thing. Like, I get what you're saying in terms of, but where is the great role for the Asian or the Latino or the...
Well, that's what I'm
saying. Doesn't... Not even for villains. At least you get that. When was the Asian villain who, outside of Shang-Chi, that isn't just like, I'm a gangster or no martial arts? That doesn't, like, there are levels of acceptance, and at least that you got Kang the Conqueror. If Kang was...
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
or Filipino, right, or just anything outside of it. Like, there are levels of acceptance, and now, the African American community is getting that, but in terms of the Latin community, when did they get a villain outside Sicario?
It sucks right now. It sucks right now where it seems that the acceptable people to play the A-list roles are right now, we have white and now black people have made the list in the past few years. But it needs to come up where you're right. Where's the Asian? Where's the Middle Eastern? Where's
Spanish or Latin?
Where's the Scandinavian? There's so many that can do it. And again, we shouldn't be talking about just
South Asian
or South Asian. Just pick it because that is we want to fill that ethnicity. No, these guys need to get the opportunity. They need to be in the casting call. The casting call should be like, all agents apply, not looking for, blah, 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 white male, 6'2", whatever these descriptors are that only certain people can be.
Well, but here's the other thing. We don't know what happens.
Much bigger conversation.
So this is something that happens behind the scenes. We don't know whether, maybe they offered it to a bunch of different people, and Jonathan Majors was the first person who said yes. We don't know what happened behind the scenes, so it's only conjecture.
And he
maybe Chow Yun-fat was not available, and then it goes to Jonathan Majors. So, or maybe it was given to Javier Bardem, and Javier Bardem's like, I'm good. So it's hard to say without being behind the scenes. We're not true insiders, so we're taking a wild guess.
Yeah.
But we'll jump over to the next topic because clearly, this is something that won't go away, and we'll be discussing it for
forever.
Suicide Squad, the announcement that James Gunn will write and direct a spin-off show, The Peacemaker, starring John's favorite, one of Rister's, John Cena, a Toretto himself, as goes full circle. Rob, can you tell me anything about The Peacemaker in any shape or form? You got anything?
Got a weird looking helmet.
Perfect. Perfect.
That's it. I don't care. Whatever. I'll watch it. Sure. I got nothing.
Add it to the list. Add it to the list.
Bravo.
Time is precious, but I'm gonna make time to watch everything that comes out.
I don't sleep at nights, man. So there you go.
You do sleep at night, you punk.
What are you, stalking me? It's the weirdest thing. Whatever. Sure. I have nothing. Peacemaker. Only from what I've read since the announcement, he's the anti. He's kind of like the Punisher mixed with Captain America. Yeah. I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? Just let's see how well it's received in the movie, and then we'll see what the show, whatever it is, whatever. He's got a weird helmet. That's all I'm going to say about that.
John.
Yeah, I know nothing of this character. I know I do like John Cena, so I'm down with John Cena. I hesitate to say I got John, nothing.
So, a question to you: over how many times he does this in the TV show? Yeah. Do you think he does it once? Like, you can't see me, like no. Because The Rock usually before when he first came, he did the eyebrow at least once. Like in Star Trek Voyager, he did the eyebrow. In the Scorpion King, he did the eyebrow. So the rays. So, do you think once John Cena will do the "You Can't See Me"?
Yep.
I think he's gonna throw it in once.
The over-under,
especially with if James Gunn is in there,
he'll be polishing his helmet.
Yeah,
with the blood on
TikTok,
it. Yeah,
wipe, and then change into somebody else.
That's right. Yep.
Andre.
Yeah, I don't.
If Andre doesn't know Peacemaker, then we're all lost.
Look, Suicide Squad is a concept to me that I've never hidden my distaste for this. Suicide Squad characters shouldn't last more than 3 comics. So it's called the Suicide Squad. If these characters are living and keep on going, they are a team. And there's there's again, I have no idea who this guy is. Okay,
like Exiles,
never read a comic with him. Whatever. I will say it's interesting that Gunn is doing another TV show if he's writing, directing, or doing anything. Because I thought he was supposed to be making the next Guardian movie.
He is. He says everything's up. Everything's on the same timeline.
That's interesting. I will say that this goes back to what we're talking about with streaming, and they just want content with names so that people will get on board and watch these and sign up for HBO Max and all that stuff. The new realm and the new reality is streaming is king. I think we're going to see a real big decline in the theater because I think that this pandemic, no matter what vaccine or whatever comes out, it's going to change how people want to go and spend time in a auditorium with 200 other people. So I think they are just saying, yep, let's get this. Everybody's going to spend $10-15 a month for the streaming service, whatever. So let's get content on there. Now, I think this is a bold move. They must have looked at something during the filming and said, wow, we're having a lot of fun with this character, or John Cena's killing it, or he's charismatic, or whatever, and
all
we can build a show off of this. Again, I don't know enough about it, and with them announcing even before the movie's finished and coming out, again, huge. What if this movie flops and everybody hates John Cena? Like, what if all the reviews, everything's like, oh my God, this thing's terrible, and then they've committed to a show? Sure, they could scrap it, whatever. I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case, but I think it's very big of them to announce this, where they know everybody is like Rob and is going to eat the Marvel cereal. Like they could do a
Kool-Aid, you'd say,
show of Groot growing, and that's it, and people would tune in to watch that. You know,
100%. I wouldn't. There was a YouTube channel. That's where I draw the line.
Oh, that's what you say now.
I don't know, Rob. if instead of the the Christmas time when they had the fire log on YouTube, there's a video of Groot just growing. I'm in. Having the background
in 4K.
In 4K. Just Groot just kind of dancing in the background, growing.
Yeah.
All the little kids would be watching that and making TikTok videos of it. So
that's true.
It's a great idea, Andre.
I just gave Disney $1 million idea. Shit, I shouldn't have said it.
$1 billion idea. This is a thing that's DC. It makes sense. James Gunn is very active on social, and they asked him, "Hey, is this affecting Guardians of the Galaxy?" He's like, "No, everything's still." Because Guardians wasn't even supposed to be filmed till 2021, 22, based on all the changes.
He's got extra time.
He's got lots of time because I think the nice thing that kind of worked out with, unfortunately with the whole situation where he got let go from Marvel from a bit, was that it was able to adjust and for them to focus more on space. So this is more the Guardians was always an avenue for them to introduce more space races, where the Kree and now with the Skrulls being there, like be able to introduce these, maybe they'll bring in the Shi'ar now, like they can be able to bring this stuff in to make it make a lot more sense. So hopefully in the future, it'll be Star-Lord shooting guns at Gladiator and Gladiator laughing. So again, I think they always kind of had this plan, and they can hold off now because space, which potentially with Sword as well, because it looks like with WandaVision, there's some sort of SHIELD team involved. So we'll see.
Maybe Gunn's got this special mojo of working with wrestlers like Batista and now like John Cena. Maybe he's just got this special like Midas touch on them.
I think at the end of the day, professional wrestlers are talented actors because they have to go on mic and talk and professional wrestle, and they're already in good shape. Like you can see the mic skills. Like these guys that are good at the mics when they have to do basically live action ad-libbing and role-playing with thousands of people watching them on the regular, like that is, how do you get that experience? Like you are really, either you're amazing at it like The Rock, with a generational, or you're garbage, and then they make you a mute or give you a manager like Mr. Fuji to talk for you, a la Yokozuna. So these are things that, or Paul Bearer with The Undertaker, like these are things where they can fix in pro wrestling. That works very well. So hey, Sasha Banks, it worked for her, so now she's in
Mandalorian season 2.
They have already the work ethic to be in the gym all the time. It's just a matter of can they do on TV. And Batista, not the greatest in ring speaker, but he's big and he can do his lines, and it works for Guardians and for a Bond movie and Blade Runner. So he's done some stuff. It worked, transition slowly. He's no Hulk Hogan. So,
that's a really poor comparison. I think Hulk Hogan, aside from No Holds Barred, every other
Suburban Commando,
atrocious.
What was the one where it played Santa Claus? There was one where it was Mila Kunis. There was that one. There was Three Ninjas.
You start bringing Hulk Hogan in and referring to him as a thespian.
Rocky 2.
Rocky 2 was the best one he's done.
Rocky 4, right?
Rocky 4. That was the best one. It was kind of like Mr. T. That was probably his best role when he was playing Clubber Lang. Like
No Holds Barred.
Mr. T's second appearance.
Role. That's it.
That's it. So yeah, there's been not too many wrestlers who have converted that have done a good job. And then The Big Show, but I don't count The Big Show. Okay, finally, news before we wrap things up on the podcast. The Boys continue to do well on Amazon. They've decided to do a spinoff. The spinoff is set in America's only college exclusively for young adult superheroes, or SUPES, that's run by Vought International. It's described as an R-rated series that explores the lives of hormonal competitive SUPES as they put their physical, sexual, and moral boundaries to the test, competing to be for the best contracts in the best cities. It'll be part show, part Hunger Games, with all heart, satire, and the raunchiness of The Boys. So that is the tagline. John is cringing already. So, John, what are your thoughts on this show?
That last part is what got me. Like, I don't want to see a Smallville kind of setting show, but with the raunchiness of The Boys. So these young kids kind of going over the top. But if it's just gore and stuff, like Boys has carved out its market. Everybody kind of loves it.
If you read The Boys, you know that there's a whole other side of the raunchiness that they're not even touching in The Boys. Whether it's,
they haven't gone to that extreme yet.
And I think that's why they're not even going to bother with.
So if they're trying to,
so
if they're trying to cash in on the the Titans Umbrella Academy era, sure, why not? And it grows like Amazon Prime's brand, which only has I feel like a small handful of shows like Bosch and Jack Ryan and stuff like that. So they don't have that. Yeah. They don't have that younger segment and then adding the rated R thing. I think it'll work. Yeah.
First off, The Golden Girls are now on Prime, which I've started to watch again, and it's amazing. It's clearly not going to bring in old guys or new young kids. It's really me. You're watching Golden Girls, going, God damn, this is a great show. Rob, thoughts?
I haven't seen any.
I'm gonna watch it.
I haven't seen thoughts on Blanche.
I haven't seen any of season 2 yet because I'm waiting for it to all drop.
Golden Girls?
I haven't. Yeah, I
Blanche
have a
Noir?
real
Or
thing for
Rose?
Blanche, and I just can't watch it late at night. I haven't watched any of season 2 of The Boys only because I want to wait for it to be completed. I think it's like mid-October is when the final episode drops, so I'll watch
They're
it.
episode 6 right now, which I watched, so they're at 6. Yes.
Okay, cool. You know what? This spinoff, sure, why not? Everybody seems to be really enjoying the show. This sounds like Sky High, Kurt Russell Sky High with a right with a just dialed to 11. So sure, I'm down. I'll watch it.
I'll watch it. Add it to the list.
Rob's like, I'll watch it. Sure.
I'll watch it. Sure.
Andre?
No interest at all.
No surprise.
that'll be Rob's shirt. Rob's shirt will be like, I'll watch it. Andre's shirt will be that's gonna be awful, or I have no interest.
I think Andre's the correction is denied. It'll just be like an X and be like denied entry. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I'm happy people enjoy it and stuff. I think there was a show and a comic book called Deadly Class. And it was about exactly this thing, a college, but to train assassins and stuff. And it was phenomenal. It was well written. It was amazingly drawn. And it only got 1 or 2 seasons on the show, but it was fantastic. Like I
Wong in it.
I loved the show.
What was it on?
The show was Sci-Fi, I think.
Okay.
And so again, the thing that gets me is that how something fails and then you put this new skin on it and then everybody's raving about it, and I'll go on record, and I guess maybe I might eat my words, maybe I'll watch an episode of this and see, but there's no way that I believe that this concept for The Boys or whatever the spin-off is gonna have any of the nuance or potential or greatness that the Deadly Class from Rick Remender had, unless they bring him on to write it, and so, and I just feel that there's, we're talking about, oh yeah, I'll watch this and stuff like that, but clearly people didn't watch Deadly Class, that's why it didn't continue, but it was amazing. And I'm not taking away from The Boys or anything like that, but that's just not how I see superheroes. That's not how I want to see superheroes. And when you're taking something like this and you're saying, oh, we're going to put it in, this is how they act in the real world. Well, once I heard the concept of this, I said, in the real world, you're not getting kids with superpowers to go to college. If I had any superpower at all, the last thing I'm doing is going to college, because as a kid of that age, you're doing what the hell you want, no matter what. But
if that's the measure to get into the cities, like just like in the
I understand
when they did the initiative that you had to register to be a superhero team. Yeah.
Zero appeal.
And get paid.
Zero appeal.
And I get what you're saying, Andre. I think the problem with that show was that it seemed very similar to everything on the market. The Boys is fitting this niche that Marvel's not touching that with a 10-foot pole. DC is not doing it either. So it's fitting a very particular niche that people want to watch and people want to see. And this same thing about the youth doing the crazy things. It's fitting this pocket bubble where that's what TV is all about. It's segmented bubbles where people watch their thing. If you look at the Emmys, even the nominations, like all these bubbles of shows that either you're in or you're not in, whether it's, The Watchmen, where some people are watching and some people are like, what is The Watchmen? Like, so I think this is the future of what we're going to when it comes to media, especially for comic books. And that's what Rob was saying. Like, we're going to get tired of this stuff. Well, if you try to copy Marvel does it better than everyone else. So why buy a GoBot when you can buy a Transformer? But if if you're going to do a whole different brand of toy, then go The Boys, because it's a brand new, different market that people don't really know what to do with. So I think that's what's distinguishing the brands at this standpoint. But maybe I'm wrong. Rob, look like you're disagreeing.
No. I was going to say you're right. Listen, there's all different types of cop shows. It's all genre. At the end of the day, it's all genre. There's different types of cop shows, different types of law shows, different types of medical shows, even though they all take place in this, this hospital. Yep. It's all different. It's just what people will either like or they won't. You're either going to be a St. Elsewhere fan for those who are watching this, or you're going to be an ER person, or you're going to be a Grey's Anatomy. It doesn't like it. It's,
or Scrubs.
We get nobody will choose that. We get to choose.
Everyone chooses Scrubs. What are you talking about?
You son of a bitch.
We got show John Watts. This is a great thing about.
I remember saying Elsewhere. Yeah,
it's a great thing about we have choices. We have choices. We can choose whatever we want. So,
and I'll pull back to you, Rob, when you mentioned it. The Shield was a very divisive show because it's a police show, but it's only corrupt cops.
Yeah.
It wasn't even the good cops. It was bad cops. So
yeah, it was a great show.
A niche that was, you watch cop shows like NYPD Blue. It's like, it was a very real, but also sad because people were dealing with their own struggles. It wasn't about, bad, dirty cops. It was just about cops trying to do the right thing.
And Dennis Franz's ass. That's what NYPD Blue was all about.
I will. NYPD Blue season 1 is the best series of police show I've ever seen, and I will go to bat.
Better than The Wire?
But season 1 is amazing, and then when Caruso left, the whole thing fell apart. You're like, yeah. Caruso season 1 was amazing before he tried.
I remember I was recommended it because I really liked The Shield, and I picked up season 1 on DVD. This is back in the day when DVDs were expensive, and I couldn't get into it at all. I needed Vic Mackey and his strike team.
and that's not a surprise that you love the Fast and Furious franchise. This is a true fact where there's more action and less story. So. This is the niche, and I think that's why, to your point in the very beginning, Rob, is that I think with all the Spider-Verse, they seem very similar in tone. But with Andre mentioning Silver Sable, that was the direction they're going through. Spies in Sony's universe that's different than just another person that shoots webs from their hands. But we will see what happens because, again, based on the pandemic, everyone needs TV shows. This is what's going to drive you to spend money. So we will see how many things come out. I would be not surprised if more TV shows are announced very quickly or being filmed very quickly than a movie at this standpoint. So that is all the news for a little bit. John and Andre, where can we find you guys more on the interwebs and the internet or in real life person?
Yeah, so most of our web stuff, you're going to search Heroes World online, Instagram, Facebook. We do have Twitter as well for the podcast, Heroes World Pod, that drops the new episodes. And then on any form of podcasting service, we're pretty much on everything now. We're on iHeart, we're on iTunes, we're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, everything. So you can find this podcast if you're not listening to it right now on those services. You can find us everywhere.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
And in the real world, in the desert of the real, as Morpheus would say, we are conveniently located at 8601 Warden Avenue. That's in Markham, Ontario, just outside of the GTA. We are open for business, and we also do curbside pickup and stuff. You can contact us over any of those online sites that John mentioned, and we'll try and hook you up with all of the cool stuff.
And what's the email address, John, that they can
you can email at sales.heroesworld, HEROES world @gmail.com, or any way you message us, Facebook, Instagram, Google, Yelp, whatever you send us a message through, we'll typically get it and we'll hook you up.
Awesome. And on a side note, he's not even in the next Matrix movie. Anyways, what Morpheus. It astounds me. I don't know.
Even Agent Smith, I think his negigations fell through. It's going to be nuts.
I'm not interested in the Matrix movies. But Rob, where can we find you online and give us a little snapshot of the Rob and John and Joey show going on right now?
Yeah, well, you can find me at Rob Gadet on Twitter and on Instagram. And then every Tuesday, we have a new show called The Sidekick Show, because we are the sidekick to this one, with Joey, as you said, John, and myself. And we just chat about what's coming out in the store each week, whether it's new books, collectibles. We talk about the 5 biggest news stories of the week that had happened, and we just shoot the shit for a little bit. And so definitely listen. It's a Sidekick Show. Again, it's on your platforms the same way you would find this one. And it's all good.
That's where you get 100% Rob.
That's right.
20% of
all
John.
Rob all the time.
Don't get it anywhere else, baby, but on that show
where you can hear all the John's greatest hits of comments and Rob just laughing in the background. It's great. Joey, God bless you for doing that, and Godspeed on the journey. Again, thank you so much for listening to this very long podcast, as always. Again, any support, comments below. John, Rob, and us will respond back to you. If you have any suggestions or comments, yes, please. We take everything to heart, and we'll try to make adjustments. We're always looking to grow and get better. and we take your suggestions very seriously. So please comment, like, subscribe, bells, all that other fun stuff that every other YouTuber says. I'm doing a terrible job at saying it, but
the usual.
the usual.
Smash that subscribe button.
Smash and oh god, smash that. Anyways, to do those things, help us out, help a brother out. That'd be great. And we will see you all next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
See ya.
I can't even find the stop record button. It's gonna go on forever.